So which codecs are the streams coded in?
So it's a proprietary codec. We record in what's called .OZO RAW format, and you basically have to bring that into Creator to then export whatever your post-production media formats are. So DPX, EXR, Cinema DNG, MP4, and then processed 48 kilohertz 24-bit PCM wave audio. So it's our own proprietary codec is what it records in.
So what is the bit depth per channel?
The sensors are 10-bit sensors. So in the end, you can get a 10-bit DPX out of it, you can get a 16-bit EXR out of it, but you're still only going to be limited by the 10-bit range in the original sensor.
Is the logarithmic format comparable to Cinema?
There is no real logarithmic format that comes out of the camera. You get a Rec 709 DPX file. It's not a logarithmic DPX file or a Cineon type DPX file. You get a linear EXR file, or you get DNG, which you can debayer to whatever format you want.
Will the format be open for high-end software packages like the Foundry and you?
Right now, you do have to bring our proprietary .OZO RAW capture format into Creator and only Creator, and then from there you can export DPX, ENG, MP4, etc. There's no way to directly import an OZO RAW into another third-party.
Okay, but there is a way to walk around it.
There's a way to work around it. Yeah, you bring it into Creator first, and then you export the formats that you're going to work in.
Is there a grading possibility inside OZO Creator?
It has very, very minimal editing capabilities. It has a timeline where you can essentially trim clips and button them up against one another. You can import multi-channel audio, but I wouldn't consider it as an editing program. You can't do titling, you can't do dissolves or fades or any other kinds of transitions or anything. Very, very limited.
Does the software support a lossless output with full bit depth for grading?
The closest thing to that would be the Cinema DNG format, which is the raw sensor data. And then you can bring that into Resolve, debayer it, do whatever color correction or color conversion you want to it. That'd be the closest thing to the uncompressed that you would get.
Is it possible to extract single camera streams to stitch in other packages?
Yes, absolutely. Within Creator, you can import the .OZO RAW format. You can export a DPX file per camera, a EXR file per camera, a DNG file per camera, or an MP4 file per camera, and then use your third-party stitching solution to stitch. For example, you can use the Jaunt cloud platform to stitch with the MP4s. You can use the Foundry's Kara VR toolset to stitch DPX or EXR, or even DNGs if you want. Although I recommend you use a different program to convert DNGs first.
How is the sound encoded? And are there formats and applications that support the full exact quality yet?
So the sound is encoded in a proprietary way. It's our own proprietary codec encoded within the .OZO RAW format. When you bring that into OZO Creator, you can export multi-channel PCM wave files, 48 kilohertz, 24-bit. You can export 4.0, 5.0, 7.0, and 8.0 channels of audio. You get an interleaved PCM wave file out of that. You can bring that into any digital audio workstation, do your mixing using that as a foundation.
Will there be a Windows Linux compatible version of the software?
That's a request we've gotten a lot. It's certainly something we're looking into, but there's no plans at this point.
So, how much of a camera module's field of view is not overlapped with other cameras' fields of view? How big is the average stitching zone?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How much of a camera module's field of view is not overlapped with other cameras' field of view? How big is the average stitching zone?
So each of the lenses is 195 degrees field of view. I would say there's approximately about 50 to 60 degrees of overlap between each of the two cameras. And in Creator, for example, you can actually position the seams where you want those stitches to be, or where you want the interpolation to be within that 60-degree range. So in case you have action that comes in part of that 60-degree range, you can push the seam over to one side and leave the action in a non-interpolated area of the final stitch image.
Could you do a quick overview of the camera, just showing what is what? And
sure. So each of these are the 8 lenses on the camera, 195-degree field of view, 2K by 2K sensor, 10-bit per lens. It also has 8 microphones spaced equally throughout the camera, so you actually get a 360-degree sphere of audio as well. It has about 240 degrees of stereo in the front, and it does fall off to mono in the back. You don't have you have a large interaxial distance here between the two side cameras. In the back, you have a power connector. You have an SFP Plus connector with a DIN for the 1.5 gigabit tethered cable. This is how you do live monitoring. It actually has a wireless antenna built into it, so you control the camera wirelessly. But if you want to do any live monitoring of it, you do need to be tethered via the cable. This is your power plug here, so you can run off of either battery, which is located here in the tail of the camera, or off of power. In this cartridge here, there's also a SSD module, good for about 45 minutes of recording. The battery is also good for about 45 minutes of recording, so they're kind of designed in lockstep with one another. Power, wireless button, and then a record button as well. So you can start and stop recording from the camera and power the camera on and off here with the switch. And that's pretty much the camera.
Cool, pretty much. Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem.